call me Reed. That's not my real name, but at this point, it doesn't matter. Nobody from that night is around to contradict me. Most people think the desert is empty, just sand, sun, and silence. But the desert remembers things. And sometimes it makes sure you don't forget them either. I used to believe nothing out there could touch me. When you're 19 and broke, you think you're invincible. You think the heat can't kill you, the night can't scare you, and the world won't swallow you whole. But the desert proved me wrong. Back then I drifted from couch to couch around the southwest, taking whatever odd jobs I could scrape together. Construction cleanup, junk hauling, fence repair if someone trusted me enough. Nothing stable, nothing that paid more than enough to eat. I hated the heat, not just disliked it, hated it down to the bone. The way it presses on you, the way it crawls under your clothes, the way it feels like something alive is sitting on your chest. But when you're poor, you don't get to be picky. One night, a guy named Marco, a dealer I bought from sometimes, told me he had real work lined up. Cash under the table. No paperwork, no taxes, no questions. Hard labor, he said, but one night of work gets you $10,000. I laughed in his face. Nobody pays that much for honest work. But he kept pushing. Man named Hollis runs the job. Strange dude, but legit. You're strong, Reed. You don't talk much. That's what he needs. The next morning, I met Hollis at a rundown diner on the edge of town. He sat alone in a back booth, sipping black coffee like someone who'd forgotten what eating felt like. The first thing I noticed about him was his skin, pale, stretched too tightly over his face. Second thing was his eyes. They were this washed out, icy blue. Not bright, not pretty, just empty. You must be the young man Marco recommended, he said, voice low and cold. You work well, you keep quiet, and you don't make trouble. He slid a card toward me. No name, no phone number, just an address. 7 a.m. tomorrow, he said. Bring water and be ready for heat. I stared at the card. 10 grand for one night? What's the catch? No catch, he said, though something in his eyes told me he was lying. Just difficult conditions. Can you handle that? I needed the money, so I nodded. And that was my first mistake. The next morning, the address led me to an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. A white box truck idled outside, rattling like it was held together with duct tape and hope. 3 others stood by the truck. Kate, the supervisor, short, broad-shouldered, cigarette glued to her bottom lip. The kind of woman you don't argue with. Ryder, older guy, maybe mid-40s, quiet, eyes always scanning. Didn't talk much. And Nolan, about my age, too confident for a job like this, smirking like he was auditioning for trouble. Kate tossed us gear, rope, harnesses, a handheld winch, sledgehammers, crowbars, and more water jugs than I'd ever seen. It's a 3-hour drive, she said. We're staying overnight at the site. If that's a deal breaker, walk away now. Nobody walked. We loaded into the truck. No AC. Windows stuck halfway down. Just scorching wind blasting us as we rattled deeper into the desert. The paved roads turned to dirt. The dirt turned to black volcanic rock, jagged formations left behind by ancient lava flows. The Malpais, a place people in town avoided a place even maps didn't bother with. By the time we reached the site, it felt like the heat was burning through my skull. Kate led us toward a narrow crack in the ground, hidden between black rock ridges. We descended into a canyon where the temperature dropped slightly, though the air was still thick enough to choke on. At the bottom was the mouth of a cave, a wide lava tube. Except it wasn't natural. The walls were too smooth, too symmetrical, like someone had carved the stone long before we'd ever existed. We set up lights, unpacked tools, and started clearing debris. Hours passed, sweat soaked through my clothes. The heat from the rock radiated upward, baking us from below. Then Nolan hit something solid. At first, I thought it was just another rock shelf. But when we cleared the dust, we realized what it really was. A stone coffin, about 6 feet long, made from the same black volcanic rock as the canyon, but carved with symbols, sharp geometric patterns that seemed to ripple sideways when your eyes drifted. Ryder frowned. This isn't Spanish, and it's not tribal. I don't recognize any of it. Kate knelt beside it and brushed dust off the carvings. We're not here to identify it, she said. We're here to get it out. Let's move. I touched the coffin. Despite the heat, the stone was freezing. That should have been our second warning. Our first was showing up at all. It took us until sunset to free the coffin and drag it into the canyon. Even with rope and pulleys, it resisted every inch, like it weighed more than stone normally could. When we finally got it onto level ground, Kate covered it with a heavy tarp. We ate in silence. Nobody made jokes, not even Nolan. When the sun disappeared behind the ridges, the temperature dropped fast. The desert always does that, bakes you alive during the day, freezes you at night. I crawled into my sleeping bag near the truck. Exhaustion hit me instantly. Sometime after midnight, I awoke to a smell that made my stomach twist. Chemical, rotten, metallic. Then I saw the light, a faint, pulsing glow leaking out from under the tarp covering the coffin. A color that didn't belong in this world, like sickness made visible. Nolan's sleeping bag was empty. I whispered his name. No answer. Then I heard the sound. Stone grinding against stone. Slow, deep, awful. The coffin lid was shifting. I froze. My mouth went dry. A scream echoed across the rocks. Nolan's voice, high and panicked, before twisting into something that wasn't human. Kate jolted awake, grabbed her flashlight and pointed it toward the top. The coffin lid was fully open, and the carvings etched beneath it were glowing with that sickening color. Ryder whispered, "We need to leave. Now." Something huge moved at the edge of the light. A shape darker than the night around it, not walking, flowing. It hit Ryder first. One moment he was standing. The next, something wrapped around him and dragged him across the rocks. His scream cut off instantly, like someone hit a switch. Kate shoved me toward the truck, yelling for me to run. I sprinted, stumbling on loose stone. Behind me, Nolan screamed again. Or maybe it wasn't Nolan anymore. I reached the truck just as Kate fired up the engine. She rammed the headlights on. The light carved through the darkness. But something massive was already there. It slammed into the side of the truck, with enough force to flip us completely over. The world spun, metal shrieked, glass shattered. When everything stopped, the truck lay on its side, I was upside down, breath punched out of my lungs. Kate hung limp in her seatbelt, blood dripping from her forehead. Then the driver's side window exploded inward. A long, thin arm, too long, jointed, wrong, reached in and grabbed Kate by the shoulders. Her seatbelt snapped like dental floss. "Reed!" she screamed, before the thing dragged her into the dark. Her screams changed, twisting from fear into something wet and broken, then faded entirely. I stayed still, silent, terrified, for hours, until the sun crawled up over the jagged horizon, turning everything orange and hideous. Only then did I crawl out of the truck. My legs felt like sand. My mind felt worse. I stumbled across the rocks until a state trooper found me, dehydrated and half delirious. I told them we'd flipped the truck. The others had gone for help. Search and rescue looked for 2 days. No bodies, no equipment, no coffin, just drag marks in the dirt that went nowhere. They assumed the others abandoned the job. Maybe died of exposure. Maybe ran. Then Hollis, the pale man, walked into my hospital room. He placed a stack of bills on the bed. 500, he said, since the job wasn't completed. I stared at him, shaking. "They're dead," I whispered. "What was in that coffin?" He didn't blink, didn't flinch. "You thought 10 grand was for a simple dig," he said quietly. "Some things weren't meant to be uncovered." Then he leaned close enough for me to smell the cold on his breath. "Leave town, tonight, and don't ask anyone else what you saw." He walked out. Nobody stopped him. I bought a bus ticket north and never looked back, but sometimes, when the sun is dropping low and turning everything orange, I hear that grinding sound again. Stone against stone. Slow, hungry. And I know the desert didn't forget us. It's just waiting.